Alright, finally we are here. It's the big one, it's the long video. This is my top 15 best movies of 2015. I am so happy to finally be here. There are quite a few movies I still wasn't able to review that came out in 2015. I will still review them because I'm a completionist like that, but I just figured I have to get this review out now because before it becomes irrelevant. So I don't want to waste any time because this is going to be a long video. So my usual disclaimers, this is a list of 15 instead of the usual 10 because I do a top 5 worst, so I just like balancing it out like that. And also because I really want to give recognition to some smaller movies and Filipino films especially that deserve to be honored as well. And again, if you're watching this and you're not from the Philippines, and I know some of you aren't, I really hope you still do stick around for the couple of Filipino movies I have on this list because they definitely are still worth checking out. And on that note, also take note that here in the Philippines, we don't get every single big movie that comes out in America and stuff like that. You know, these Oscar contenders only come out later on in the following year, if we even get them at all. So if you're looking for movies like Spotlight or Carol or Room, we just didn't get them at all. Although I do know that we're getting movies like The Big Short, Brooklyn, and The Revenant very, very soon. But again, this list will only be made up of movies released in Philippine cinemas in 2015. So if you're thinking, you know, why isn't this movie on this list, please just ask me first before, you know, criticizing me, because that's happened before, about whether or not these movies actually did come out in the Philippines. And one last thing I will say, and this is something I'm really sad to say, is that I unfortunately wasn't able to go to any of the local independent film festivals in 2015 because I was just really busy with school and whatnot. And that's something I really regret because I did hear that there were quite a few great movies in festivals this year, and I'll hopefully make up for that in 2016. So before we go on to my top 15, there are a few honorable mentions I just really have to mention. These are movies that I also very much enjoyed, they just really missed the cut. The way I made this list was that I put together these 20-something movies I had in mind, and I shuffled them around, and I really, because I don't count beforehand, I really didn't know what was going to end up in my top 15, so this was also kind of a surprise for me. So first of all, in terms of honorable mentions, we have The Little Prince, this incredibly imaginative and heartfelt blend of CGI and breathtaking stop-motion animation. We have The Walk, a comedically offbeat biopic that culminates in a really thrilling and hypnotic high-wire sequence. We have Cinderella, a refreshingly old-school and consistently charming live-action fairy tale. We have Trainwreck, a very funny and very genuine rom-com that showcases the best of the genre. We have Spy, this hilarious parody of the spy genre that also stands as a competent action film on its own right, with a great role for Melissa McCarthy. And finally, just missing the list, which I'm kind of really sad about because I really enjoyed this movie, is Straight Outta Compton. It's surprisingly intense and inspiring musical biopic with probably one of the best ensemble casts of the year. But let's move on to my top 15. So at number 15 is a movie that I think a lot of people might be mad, you know, at me for choosing this over something like Straight Outta Compton, but it's really a movie that stuck with me ever since I saw it and really grew on me the more I thought about it, and that is While We're Young. Yes, this is a movie that, in my opinion, like I said, gets better the more I think about it because of how loaded with meaning it is. You know, it just has such a great script from Noah Baumbach that talks about maturity and aging and the generation gap, but it does so by, you know, showing us characters who are documentarian. So it's really cool to kind of see their perception of truth and honesty through their documentaries and whatnot, and I thought that was really, really cool. This movie also has one of the best performances from Ben Stiller in a very long time, and the direction here from Noah Baumbach is also just this amazing balance of comedy and drama that works very, very well. At number 14, number 13 are the two Filipino films that I have on my list this year. I just couldn't find a way to kind of separate them because I do love them equally in very different ways. And so I decided to kind of put them in the same spot just because I really couldn't choose. But yeah, this is really what this list is for because I really wanted to talk about these two movies. So at number 14 is a movie that I think a lot of people look back on 2015 in Philippine cinema and think, you know, this movie is just a landmark, and that is General Luna. It has some of the most lavishly mounted production design I've seen in a Filipino movie. It's completely immersive. I never doubted for a second that I was back in this time period. It has this extremely ballsy script that finds humanity and humor in these characters, in these historical figures, and reflects it back to us. You know, I don't think that this movie ever demonizes or excessively heroizes any of these characters. It's really up to the audience to interpret what we think about them, and that shows such respect for these historical figures. And this movie as well has some career-defining performances from Mon Confiado, who plays Emilio Aguinaldo, and especially John Ercilio, who plays General Luna. And you know how you look at Robert Downey Jr. nowadays and you think of him as only Iron Man, like it's the same thing now. Like John Arcilla is now equated with this role, which is fantastic. And at number 13 is the other Filipino movie that I really thought deserved to be mentioned here, and that, of course, following all the MMFF controversy, is Honor Thy Father. This is such a great movie. It has just incredible visuals that really evoke a sense of bleakness and desperation. It really helps with the storytelling. Again, a career-defining performance from John Lloyd Cruz, who really sheds his rom-com image and shows us that he can be a great character actor as well. Like his character here is like Walter White level cool sometimes. But the best part of Honor Thy Father is Eric Matty. Just his patient and dedicated direction in this movie just has so many layers to it, not just thematically, but in the sense that he really has so many things happening in a scene at the same time, and that really shows a lot of dedication on his part. And there's still some scenes in this movie that I don't know how they pulled off, so kudos to you guys. Now, at number 12, we move on from some established directors like Eric Matty and Gerald Tarog to a first-time director, in fact, and that is The Gift, the directorial debut of actor Joel Edgerton, which is, again, just a great movie. I called it the Gone Girl of 2015, and I still stand by that. The Gift has this visual style that oozes paranoia that, once again, really helps with the storytelling. It has 3 incredible, equally balanced performances from Jason Bateman, Rebecca Hall, and Joel Edgerton himself. And just, it's so cool that when they're acting in a scene together, it's hard to kind of figure out who's winning in the scene, like who's stealing the show, because they all steal the show pretty much at the same time, and it's fantastic to see. I think they're all really awards worthy if this movie got more attention. And this is also one of the first movies in a very long time that I've seen with some truly shocking twists, especially by the end. My jaw was just on the floor. I couldn't believe what was happening, and it was such a great experience. Now, all these movies I've mentioned so far are pretty kind of niche, I guess. Like, they're very for particular audiences, but let's go to something that's a bit more mainstream, and I think a lot more people saw, and for good reason, because it is a great movie, and that is Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. First of all, one of the things that's really cool about Rogue Nation is that it has perhaps the best music that the series has ever had. They really play around with the classic Mission Impossible theme and, you know, find new ways to bring out new melodies with using the theme as an inspiration. That's really cool. And Rogue Nation just has a fantastic cast as well, and what I love is that this isn't just the Tom Cruise show. Again, there's a lot of balance among the stars. You get a lot of time with Simon Pegg as well. Rebecca Ferguson, who's awesome and really just a welcome addition to the franchise. It's great to see Ving Rhames back. It's great to see Jeremy Renner back. And the coolest thing about Rogue Nation is how director Christopher McQuarrie turns this into kind of like a greatest hits of the series, and he takes the best elements of the previous 4 Mission Impossible movies and puts it together in such a way that just makes this pretty much the quintessential Mission Impossible experience. Now, moving on into the top 10 is a movie that when it came out here in Philippine cinemas, not a lot of people saw, but they managed to see it later on, and I'm very happy that my friends really enjoy this movie because, again, it's a great movie, and that is Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. This movie at first, you know, seemed to look like a hipster version of The Fault in Our Stars, but after watching it, like, it really comes across as something that's very genuine and very sincere. You can tell it's coming from a place of real emotion. It's not manipulating the audience. It really earns its emotional beats. Everyone in the cast has a really bright future ahead of them. Thomas Mann, R.J. Seiler, especially Olivia Cook, they all did fantastic work. And again, the best part of this movie is the director, Alfonso Gomez-Rejon, who clearly loves movies, just in the way, in how playful his scenes are, and how inventive his direction can get. You can tell that this guy just really loves what he's doing, and that love is felt all throughout the movie. Now, number 9 is a movie from an old master, an old master director, that a lot of people kind of felt didn't really have signature magic in it, and I actually beg to disagree. I thought Bridge of Spies definitely had the Steven Spielberg touch. First of all, before I say anything else, if you have not watched Bridge of Spies, please watch it, and if you have not heard the music from Bridge of Spies by Thomas Newman, go online, look for the soundtrack, listen to it. It is fantastic music. And Spielberg really knows as well how to get great performances out of his cast, especially Tom Hanks here. Again, one of the best roles Tom Hanks has had in a very long time. But in terms of acting, you gotta mention Mark Rylance in this movie. He plays the Russian spy here, and just, it's such a great restrained performance. It's one of the best restrained performances from an actor I've seen in a very long time, and I really hope he wins an Oscar because he absolutely deserves it. And like I said, I do think that this movie does have the Spielberg magic. It has this sense of humility and grace about it, and it's a very intimate story about these two men trying to do the right thing when, you know, their governments and their family really are just trying to make them do what the state feels is the right thing, but they, you know, hold on to their morals and whatnot. And I think it's really, really great. It's such a great movie. Now, number 8 is a movie that a lot of people were nervous about, including myself, although I was never really a fan of this franchise, but it was a movie that tried to revitalize the franchise, and a lot of people didn't think it could do that. But Creed definitely did its job. This is one heck of a movie. First of all the movies that follow in this list have great music, and this is no different. The way, again, that the way they play around with the old Rocky themes to come up with new melodies and whatnot is really, really cool. Michael B. Jordan is a bona fide star. He saved himself from Fantastic Four earlier this year, and he really puts on a fantastic performance in this movie. I believe he can do anything he wants now. And Sylvester Stallone, my god, he's here to stay. Like, he really shows us why he was ever considered a great actor before, and he shows us that he still has a lot of acting left in him. And again, the star of this movie is Ryan Coogler, definitely, the director, who, again, I believe can do anything he wants now. It's just announced that he's officially directing Black Panther, and I have all the confidence in the world that he can do it, because the stuff he pulls off in Creed is amazing. Like, from that one fight scene that's all done in one take, to just certain moments between characters that really, really have the emotion come through, to the final fight that really got me just so pumped up and, you know, cheering at the end. He really does a great job. Now, number 7 is another movie that I think got better the more I thought about it, because this really is just a complete package and a true cinematic experience that you have to see on the big screen, and that for me is The Martian. The visuals in The Martian, number 1, are just incredible. It really feels like they shot on Mars. The music is great as well. The editing, the way they bounce back from Matt Damon on Mars to the people on Earth trying to figure out how to get him back, it's so well balanced. Like, you never lose track of the story, even as it's bouncing from planet to planet. And Matt Damon truly is brilliant in this movie. I don't think he's overrated at all. Like some people have said, like, just the warmth and the humanity he brings to this character were key in making this movie so entertaining. And the light tone that Ridley Scott achieves in this movie really is a big deal. I know a lot of people who kind of think that, you know, why is this movie so funny, etc., etc., you know, it kind of takes away from the experience, and I don't think that at all. I mean, it's not a comedy like the Golden Globes wants to think, but because of its light touch, this movie really becomes as thrilling as it could have been. I think it becomes better than if it was going to be as depressing as, like, you know, Castaway or All Is Lost or something. It's just such a fun movie to watch, and isn't that one of the main reasons why we go to see movies? Now, number 6, I'm very happy to say, is a horror movie, and I'm very happy that we get at least one really good horror movie per year. In 2013, we had The Conjuring, 2014, we had The Babadook, and in 2015, we have It Follows. This is a movie that I don't think a lot of people are going to enjoy, because it's not scary in the traditional sense. In fact, I wouldn't say it's really scary at all. It's more of creepy. But this is a movie that tells its story more through what's unsaid, and that's what I really admire about it. It has some of the creepiest sound and the creepiest images of 2015. It's a very slow-paced movie, but I love the slow pace, the way it's used here, because it does heighten the paranoia. I mean, up to today, if I read, like, the synopsis of It Follows on Wikipedia, I just can't look behind me. It gets me so paranoid that I have to kind of keep my back to the wall. See, I'm looking behind me right now. It's really, really scary just thinking about it. And this is all thanks to David Robert Mitchell, the director, who really uses economic scares in this movie. You know, there aren't really any jump scares in this movie. He really makes us face this thing that's just constantly walking towards the characters, and it's really terrifying. And now we get to number 5. These are the top 5 are movies that really, really blew me away in every sense. So at number 5, we have Sicario. Sicario is a movie that I heard great things about, and when I watched it, like, it turned out to be even better than I thought it was going to be. First of all, we have to talk about the cinematography here from Roger Deakins, because any movie he shoots is, you know, his work is worth singling out. The images he constructs for Sicario really kind of are responsible for telling half the story. Like, just the mood these images evoke and the violence that's evident in them really sets the tone for the rest of the movie. And one other thing that I think is worth pointing out is the music here from Johan Johansson. He's the same guy who did the music for The Theory of Everything, which was very, you know, kind of touching and somewhat Oscar baity, honestly. But in this movie, he manages to, you know, create a score that's almost completely the opposite. It sounds like something Nine Inch Nails would have done. It sounds like something Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross would have done for Gone Girl or The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And the cast in this movie is great as well. Emily Blunt and Josh Brolin are fantastic, but this movie really belongs to Benicio del Toro. He's just completely something else in this movie. He plays someone who's so morally gray that at times you're just disgusted with him, but at the same time you think he's a hero. Like he manages this tightrope just so well, and he definitely is worthy as well of awards recognition. Now, number 4 is a movie that I don't think anybody has seen. I know only a couple of people who have seen this movie, and I really stand by it. Some people might think that I'm kidding with this choice, but I am not kidding when I say that the Shaun the Sheep movie is one of the best movies of 2015, one of the best animated films of 2015. It's just, what this movie is that it's classic stop motion animation. It's number 1, it's gorgeous. Number 2, just the way it tells its story purely through visuals is such an achievement. Like, it's so difficult to do that. It single-handedly keeps this art form legitimate. Because take note, there is zero dialogue in this movie, and yet you understand completely what each of these characters is going through. It's one of the funniest movies of the year, definitely. It's one of the most heartfelt movies of the year, honestly. It has so much heart to it. It has so much charm. And you know, it really tugged at my heartstrings just through the simple interactions between these characters, because it really is a story about family, and the purity of the story really got to me in a way that no other movie this year did. And at number 3 is a movie that I never actually honestly expected to see on this list, because I was thinking, how could a movie with so much hype and expectation behind it ever be any good? And I was very impressed that Star Wars: The Force Awakens rose to the occasion and became one of the best movies of the year. A lot of people seem to be having problems with the movie, but I guess that's just because of, you know, how big a deal Star Wars is. But honestly, if you look at this movie objectively as a film, as a sum total of all these filmmakers working together, it really is an excellent movie. It's one of the most purely immersive worlds / galaxies that a movie has ever brought me to. Again, like many people have said, it really brings you back to when you were a kid and you were watching, you know, big effects-driven movies for the first time, and it really just transported you. And the way they use effects in this movie is really something else. Just the blend of CGI and practical effects, like, it really brings you into a world that you never doubt is real. But the best thing about Star Wars: The Force Awakens, surprisingly enough, are the characters. The cast in this movie is fantastic. You know, the internet has already fallen in love with Daisy Ridley and Oscar Isaac, but you know, we have to talk about John Boyega as Finn, who does a great job, and especially Adam Driver as Kylo Ren. And Kylo Ren is probably like my favorite character from 2015, like mostly thanks to Adam Driver's performance. I think this is an extremely exciting, heartfelt movie that, you know, opened up my imagination again to blockbuster filmmaking. And I will defend J.J. Abrams to my grave. Like, I think he did a fantastic job. He's one of the best franchise directors working out there today, because you can feel just how much he loves the material he works with. He's such a film fan, and I really felt it in his direction. I think he completely deserves the praise that a lot of people have been giving him. Now, my number 2 and my number 1 every year always kind of, you know, for me are hard to choose between because they're so different. So in 2013, I had Before Midnight and Gravity. In 2014, I had Whiplash and Boyhood. And this year, it's no different. It's very tough to choose among them because they're so different. But I ended up with this order. So at number 2 is a movie that I think a lot of people expected to be my number 1, and that is Mad Max Fury Road. Doesn't mean, just because it's at number 2, doesn't mean that I like it any less, because this movie is still an incredible just masterpiece of action. Like, I have just so much fun watching it. Everything about this movie's visuals and sound and just presentation in general are perfect. I don't use that word lightly, just truly perfect. Like, the world building that goes on in this movie, purely just through visuals and sound, costume design, makeup, production design, visual effects, practical effects, music, sound design. It has some of the best editing and action directing ever in a movie. George Miller, who's 70 years old plus, like, just choreographing all these stunts and whatnot, is an incredible achievement. The fact that all the action in this movie is so coherent, and the fact that it always finds ways to switch things up from scene to scene, is just that's worth the price of admission alone. And the cast in this movie is great as well. I think Tom Hardy did a great job as Max. I think Nicholas Hoult deserves a lot more recognition than he's been getting. But this movie really does belong to Charlize Theron as Furiosa, who is just instantly one of the classic female sci-fi heroines up there with the likes of Ellen Ripley and Sarah Connor. Like, this movie is just a complete blast to watch. I think it's more than an action movie. This is truly an experience that has to be seen on a big screen at least once in your life. And finally, at number 1 is a movie that just hit me so hard, I think, ever since I saw it. It's a movie that I can't deny the power of. It's the first movie to make me cry, and those who know me know that I'm talking about Inside Out. This movie really got to me in a way that no other movie in 2015 did. First of all, it's just some of the most imaginative animation Pixar has ever done. It has music that brings me to tears every single time. It's just such great music. Fantastic voice acting, especially from Amy Poehler, who does one of the best voice acting jobs I've ever heard. The way Pete Docter directs this movie and really how he really manages to hit both kids and adults, like how they'll both be able to enjoy this movie equally, is a feat that not a lot of people can pull off. But really the best thing about Inside Out to me is it's probably the best script that Pixar or even Disney in general has ever had. Like, just the way this movie condenses all these psychological things and puts it together in such a way that makes it accessible to both kids and young adults like myself who aren't really well versed in psychology. Like, that's such a great achievement, I think. And the way this movie delivers such a simple but poignant message about, you know, how it's okay to be sad, and how it promotes mental health, and how it promotes good parenting. It's one of the most important movies, I think, that Disney has ever made. I think, you know, it had a message in it that I kind of needed to hear in 2015, and I'm very, very thankful for it. It's a movie that I'm going to think about for a very long time. It's a movie I think a lot of people will keep thinking about. You know, I don't just like it because it's a Pixar movie. I like it because I legitimately think it's one of the best constructed movies I've ever seen in my life. Just everything about it to me, like, I wouldn't change a thing about it. It's that good to me. It's on the level of Boyhood to me, and if you know me, that is saying a lot. Alright, so finally, those are my top 15 movies of 2015. I am sweating like crazy. It was an awesome year for movies. At first, it didn't feel like it was going to be because the summer season, in my opinion, was kind of empty. But, you know, most of these movies are kind of low-key, non-blockbuster movies, which is great. You know, there are lots of gems out there. And I'm already excited for what 2016 has in store for us. I'm planning to do a coming soon video for movies coming out in 2016 very soon. And take note that this list doesn't mean I only enjoyed like 20 movies in 2015. Like, there are lots of other movies out there that I really, really did enjoy. It's just that there were some flaws with them that kept them out of the list. So again, please ask me. Maybe I did like the movie that you have in your list. So yeah, anyway, so those are my thoughts for the top 15 movies of 2015. What do you guys think about them? What is your list for 2015? So whatever you guys think, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.